in the ecosystem also there were not too many other players who had got acquired by a foreign entity.
Right.
So there were some logistical challenges and other things that we have to overcome.
Right.
So that is what was the complexity. But otherwise, like for Facebook, otherwise it's a regular one. And we were around the same time as where WhatsApp also got acquired. Like last year we were hitting around 50K average users per month.
Right.
Now we're around 200K average users per month. So we have grown reasonably in the last, especially in the last 1 year we have grown.
Oh, great.
We're actively using our assistant.
Okay.
And we have good apps like Nika, ICICI Direct,
Okay.
and Renbus, Apna Club. So they're all using our assistant. So
Guys, so to make this conversation a little interesting, I will start from a question of Facebook. Even on the internet, we find that Kumar is a serial entrepreneur, something like that, and you sold your company to Facebook.
yes.
That's what it's written.
Yeah.
So in this particular topic,
Okay.
I have a few subset of questions.
Sure.
Like when you sold your company to Facebook, right? Which year was this?
2014.
2014. Wow, it's almost about 9 years
Yes.
back. At that time, I think Facebook was probably very still strongly relevant.
Okay.
Yeah, even now it's just kind of moved
Now
into
there are other
rural.
brands also, but then at them Facebook was the primary brand. Instagram was just relatively recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with 2014, that means your deal was with Mark Zuckerberg directly, or
So
still very far?
It's an exaggeration, but no. So like for Facebook, we were the 42nd acquisition.
Okay, but
Like-
still a very good, is really early, right?
42nd. But then by the time it had become an art, it's no longer art, it's a science for them, right? So
Right.
where they already had a formal team, everything operates in a certain structure. With us, what was unique was we were the first and the only so far Indian company they've acquired.
Right.
And so there's a lot of learnings for them, a lot of learnings for us. And we were in the ecosystem also, there were not too many other players who had got acquired by a foreign entity.
Right.
So there were some logistical challenges and other things that we had to overcome.
Right.
So that is what was the complexity. But otherwise, like for Facebook, otherwise it's a regular one. And we were around the same time as where WhatsApp also got acquired.
Right. Right.
We were no comparable to the WhatsApp deal. Right? So now, of course, WhatsApp was a personal Mark's thing. This is nothing to do with Mark level. It's a couple of levels low.
Right.
So what happened?
At that time, you were in India or still in US?
India.
In India.
We are an Indian company.
Okay.
We are a pure Indian company, even though 50% of our customers were outside India.
Okay.
But we are an Indian company.
Okay. Okay. So I'll come to another question, follow-on question on this.
Yeah.
But very quickly, Kumar, if you can tell us about Slang Labs. What is Slang Labs? What do you do at Slang Labs?
Okay, so yeah. So at Slang Labs, okay, I'm one of the co-founders there. Like at Slang Labs, what we do is we make the process of using for all of us, for us, for our parents, for our tier 2, tier 3 brethren, the process of using an app faster, easier, and more accessible. Right? That's the larger story. How do we make it? By adding a multilingual voice layer on top of apps. Right? We are focusing on a few domains like e-commerce and travel e-commerce and fintech, I think, but that's the whole thing. Like if you're transacting with using an app to be able to do stuff, instead of having to use your fingers to search and look and do things, can you just speak a command? I want 2 kg onion, I want blue Maybelline lipstick, and it should be able to show you the product and keep having conversations on top of the app to be able to get things done. And to be able to do that in a multilingual fashion, even if the app is in English, you should be able to say, mujhe ye chahiye, wo chahiye. So again, my is very poor, but in all kind of languages, right? And the app, the assistant layer should be able to handle all of that voice part, and the app itself will be in English only. Right? Everything will be in English, and the R system will now take care of that. At a very, very crude level, think of it like an Alexa or a Google Assistant, but for your app. Inside the context of an app, how do we now do that? That's the product that we built, and that's what we are doing. And now we are adding more and more capabilities, like more Gen AI capabilities. We have built a second product called Conva Omni, which is like a full-on assistant where you can ask any kind of a question. If you're looking at a particular product, you can ask questions about that product. It should be able to answer that question. Hey, does it have side effects? When should I take this medicine? All these kind of things. Or like, if I want to make paneer butter masala, what should I buy? So typically in an e-commerce app, you know what you want, and you come and just do the low-level transactions. Instead, now can you come to a e-commerce app and start with, yeah, I want to cook or I want to make paneer butter masala, tell me what I should buy. And now can it start with that recommendation? Or you go to a healthcare app and say like, hey, I have a headache, I have a fever, I have a low grade, whatever, and then should be able to give you the right recommendations of medicines to buy. Right? To be able to not do that kind of a transaction is what we are evolving into in our newer product. So that's the assistant experience we are building.
So I have observed you text parks over text parks. I have observed you events over events, and from the day one till today, your passion and energy of how you pitch Slang Labs and the features has been constant, right? So amazing energy. That's what I actually have seen and observed in you.
Thank you.
But in reality, and I feel you're also so excited about this voice feature and about Slang Labs, right? But in reality, how is the response from the companies to something like this?
Reality took a long time, right? Like for example, so when we started in 2017,
right?
We had, in our first interview, we had said, oh, in 5 years, the world will change, it will all become like this.
Right.
It has been 6 years, the world is still quite close to how it was 5 years back. It
Right.
hasn't significantly evolved from where it has evolved significantly, but not the level at which we had expected. That's the reality of the world, right? So, voice as a means to do things added sort of an A-day with Alexa was popular around 2014, 16, 17, around the time. And then we thought, okay, we will do it in a different way, and then we went on. But it hasn't really caught up. That's the reality of the story.
Right.
But what we are seeing is like there's a gradual uptick. Right? We have to be able to now look at the optimism, the positive path. Like we're seeing like our usage, because our metric comes from two success points. The number of apps who have integrated our experience and the number of end users who are actually using their experience.
Right.
We are a two-sided story.
Right.
Because finally our customers integrate only when end users care about it.
Correct.
Now but we are a chicken neck problem. To get to a sizable amount of end user, we need to have a reasonable amount of apps to integrate. Now for apps to integrate, we needed confidence that the end users will use. Right. So it took a while to be able to now figure out, okay, what are the use cases which end users care?
Right.
What will do it in a way that the customers can very easily integrate.
Right.
So in the recent times, we have become much better. Like last year, we were hitting around 50K average users per month.
Right.
Now we are around 200K average users per month. So we have grown reasonably in the last, especially in the last 1 year, we have grown.
Right.
Good apps.
200K users.
200K users per month.
Oh, great.
Are actively using our assistant.
Okay.
And we have good apps like Nika, ICICI Direct,
Okay.
and Renbus, Apna Club. So they're all using our assistant. So the story has was slower than we expected, but it is seeing a gradual uptick. Especially, and this year especially, we are seeing a good tailwind with the whole generative AI tech. Right? As now all of us have started enjoying the power of generative AI with chatbots, not chatbots, but the biggest problem with so far was like the notion of having a bot to talk to, an assistant talk to was very broken. Even when we all use Alexa, our experience of Alexa was always very painful. Right? We use it for a very, very limited use case. Beyond that, we don't use. So our notion of talking to a system to get things done was not really true, because they were very limited in their capability. But the users' imagination is very broad. Now with ChatGPT, with the generative AI, with the LLM tech, the ability for users to have a general purpose conversation, to be able to have with the system, and for the system to be able to now understand and do meaningful actions is become possible. They have shown it is now possible. The tech has now evolved to that possibility. Now because of that tailwind, we are now leveraging that tech, not ChatGPT, but the lower level LLM tech. We are leveraging that tech and to be able to now provide a truer conversational experience to customers. And we are hoping the advent of this tech and this, the thing that people are also starting to trust this tech better, we have a second wind of it, we'll see. That's the expectation of this year.
So from the end user's perspective, are they using voice because, for example, they are they're driving and they want to quickly access, or is it that they're stable and sitting somewhere, but then still is it a convenience?
Yes, so it's a convenience and an accessibility feature.
Okay.
So what we see is, like, for example, a lot of people who use the app.
Right.
So we think in our native language,
Right.
and then we try to now, for example, in a dress shop.
Right.
You want, like, I want to buy, again, my Hindi is very broken, so I'm just going to speak kapade, right? Like, you want to think like, okay, I want to buy this Neil, right? But the app will not understand kapade.
Right.
App, you have to convert it to something the app will understand. Now, that creates a discovery and a barrier for people to be able to use these systems.
Right.
That's one of the most popular use case for voice, where they want to be able to discover products, discover things.
And since it is multilingual,
Exactly.
which means it finds some better market in tier 2, tier 3.
You'll be, well, actually it's like for example, our stats shows that in the B2C commerce app, we are finally for B2C, 55% is coming from tier 2, but 40% is coming from tier 1.
Okay.
It's not like 90% is tier 2 and where small percentage people like you and me use. So significant people like you and me also use this.
Okay.
So because of, again, it's so much more faster and so much more easier to use voice than to be able to now type every time. Like I'm sure when you're all using YouTube, so actually YouTube is a very popular. Like, you want to have a name, you want to. It's so much more harder to now type that name. Just pick the name and get things done. Now same experience you can now start to get in e-commerce and travel and everything else. You're booking a ticket. You don't want to go click source destination Bangalore, destination Delhi, date, drop down, select them. So it's just one button say Bangalore to Delhi tomorrow. Done. Now it will show you the search listing. So that convenience factor that voice gives you, the accessibility factor that voice, the multilinguality gives you. So both of and the speed fact. Now it will take me 20 seconds to fill 3 fields to be able to now get here versus 6 seconds to speak one command and get to my next screen.
But for this companies like say Nykaa and bigger companies who believe they are tech companies, and is it like how they view say Razorpay and Paytm, where they don't want to build it when they know that something is readily available, they just want to integrate it. So do they feel that we can build voice ourselves, or they also always feel that it is better to partner with you?
Both happens. It's not like there's always a conscious notion of like some companies want to build versus some companies want to okay to just buy. They want to optimize for speed versus they want to optimize for it has to be built here sort of a story. Now there are 2 levels. So if you want to be able to build, to be able to build a voice experience, there are multiple, like there's a low level AI technology that you have to be able to use. Now there are third party vendors like Google who will give you the lowest level capability. Then on top of it you can build. The engineering part you can build. So now what we offer is like you don't have to build everything, we give you a full on compiled package. But if you have to be able to build, there's a lot of effort you have to be able to do because you have to optimize it for your apps, for your SKUs for the e-commerce app. People have to remember basmati rice, for example, basmati rice, ponni rice. When in a general purpose voice system, it might not understand what is ponni. It might take the spelling wrong. If I say PINNI, then the whole backend will not be able to work with it. It should be able to understand it. So with our kind of system, we're able to now optimize it better. Now, in theory, everything is buildable. Finally, software. People can also build. So that's where companies like Flipkart and all have built it on their own. Even JioMart and all have built it on their own. But companies like Nykaa, Zepto, Redbus, they have said, okay, we'll rather partner with somebody else who's a specialist, and then get it done. So both happens. So
Great. So let's move a little bit up into a business level thought process of yours and your own personal journey, etc. So when I saw Slang Labs earlier, I saw everything in green. Your T-shirt was green. I thought the branding was green. What made you change it? Did you change? Did you get a makeover? And why did you feel that was required?
No, I think like because we kept evolving as a company, so we had to now rebrand and reposition ourselves. And there was also one practical problem. Green T-shirts, they're very notoriously hard to get and then print something. It became very, very painful for us to get anything properly, get reasonable quantity of green T-shirts and print. Like the joke in our company is like we don't pay in salary, we pay in T-shirts. Like so everybody has like I have 20 T-shirts. But it was like it's like you will never see me anything other than a slang dress, a slang T-shirt anywhere. So that's sort of like the model. So so that is one reason, and also that created exactly initially when we went with green, we had to pick a color which was unique that we could.
So was it only T-shirt or because the website has changed?
Everything. So we chose as our primary color. Like in Litlai, we had a black and yellow as our primary color. So then, so then if you see our website, our T-shirt, our deck, everything will be in that color coordinated fashion.
But from a business and what do you call a branding perspective, did it change anything, or did it because of this change? Did it change something? Change because of that? Did it add?
Our positioning started changing, right? Like originally when we started out as like a general purpose voice. We call it as a voice augmented experience. So we gave an horizontal platform. Anybody could come in. We were discussing with you also before. We would go discuss with you, hey, what is the use case you want, and either you can use our platform and go build the use case yourself, or we would say, okay, we will build it for you. Sort of a positioning is what is there. So then we evolved into saying, okay, we don't want to keep building for people because our whole thing was to be a product company, which people can consume, not a solutioning company. So now then we evolved into giving ready-made capabilities out of the box.
Right.
That if you today want to be able to learn technique, it's like a single 5 lines of code, you get the experience done. So we evolved as a company also.
Right.
So to represent that, we also had to rebrand and that is there, and also the practical problem that we had with our T-shirt. T-shirt is very important, I think, for us. So now all of them put together, we said, okay, let's move into another color.
Right.
And another reason is like originally the marketing guy changed also, right?
Okay.
That's the other practical thing that happens. Like original guy who designed it, and then later on the new marketing guy who came in, he said, no, I want to
change.
bring my new makeover,
new ideas.
Fine. And all these things came, and said,
So you're open to new ideas and
that's how to keep evolving.
Okay. So I remember an ad in which there is a car broke down on the road, and there is a girl who is asking a lift. And there's a car coming by, and they almost slow down to see, okay, I think this girl needs help, and they almost are about to stop the car. And when they are about to stop the car, they see that logo of that car, and they see it's Toyota. And then they suddenly speed up, and they don't stop to help her. So, and then the ad says, Toyota never breaks down, right? So that means that then they show the lady turned out to be a devil, So, so that brand is so strong that say that Toyota never breaks down.
Correct.
So like that, I was just asking you right now. I've always seen you in Slang Labs T-shirt, and it is something like the boat Aman Gupta where he always carries. So I think if you would come in a shirt or a normal shirt without Slang Labs, I wouldn't believe that it is Kumar, right? So are you following that same strategy, or is there something, because why always Slang Labs? Otherwise you never wear anything apart from Slang Labs?
My wife and my kids have the same concern. They always see me in this similar things.
Only during office time, or?
Office, well, let's see. When most of the office times also, most of us wear this only, or like some variants of the T-shirt. Like I said, we have various types of T-shirts. We keep switching.
Oh no, let me ask you this way.
But let me tell you the basic. Right? So this is actually was inspired by Sergey. I forgot now it is Sergey Bin or the other one. But the Google founding story. Right?
Okay.
This really stuck with me.
Okay.
And this is what I did with Little. Same thing I've done with this was.
Okay.
So the Google guys, when they started, they would invariably always wear a Google T-shirt. Apparently, right? That's their thing. So, because like, if I don't talk about my brand, if I don't carry my brand, like nobody knows who is there. Like they have to be able to know, say, why should I want to carry a Nike brand, even if it is cool? That's not what I want to represent. I want to represent that company, which we are now creating that company.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that Google said. Like this is exactly what they did right from every day early on. You would always wear a Google T-shirt whenever he goes.
Right.
That stuck. So like when that feels so correct. That's exactly what you should do. Why do you want to now carry some other brand? To do what purpose? You get a good T-shirt. You make sure it is not cringy and like not they're carrying advertisement banner on your thing, but just make sure the T-shirt is nice and good, everything. But you make sure your brand is what that matters. So we would, whenever you go to conferences, even Little I, we were initially very surprised when people don't wear their brand. It's like you're losing out on the marketing opportunity.
To carry it
branding
outside.
Branding, like everywhere else, like you're Nike or whatever, like how does that represent you? There's nothing about that. You are carrying somebody else's brand and saying I'm you. That's not you, right? So we were not. So that was that Google influence and the logic of it stuck. And then we have been doing it all the time. So whenever I go out, it's invariably.
For example, if you're going to an IPL match,
still doesn't matter.
You would wear a Slang Labs?
Let me clarify. So when I'm going for a marriage, of course I'm not going to be wearing Slang Labs all the time. So it depends on the situation. There is, depending on what is the primary
IPL
purpose. IPL match, most likely I'll wear a
Slang Labs.
No, not now.
Okay.
No, most likely I'll wear that dress. If I'm a strong, if my team, if you want to be able to now do. But most likely, selfishly, I'll wear a Slang Labs T-shirt only.
Correct.
Right? Because it's
you want people
exactly.
To see
if there's
that,
an opportunity for people to be able to now see that. If I come on TV in that point, like they see that, it's going to say, if I wear another CSK T-shirt, I'm from Chennai, nobody's going to notice. Right? There'll be a sea of yellows. Right. You will not even stand out. Like if you wear something else, there's a good chance you'll stand out. So.
Right. So little into you, Kumar. You said you are from Chennai, right?
Yes.
Where you were born and how your journey, where all did you go, what all did you did before you did Slang Labs?
Yeah,
so a little bit into...
yeah, sure, the boring part of my story. So I'm from 75, I was born in 1975, and so I studied in Chennai in a world famous college called Bharat Engineering College. I'm sure everyone has heard of it, right? So like it's a small college there. And then finished that engineering, and then I got a job in Bangalore in GE Medical, Wipro GE Medical.
Yes, right.
So I moved here in '96.
Right.
So, and then after I moved here, I guess fell in love with Bangalore as a place. And this is like, again, those early days when there was no traffic. I could go in a Hero Puck, that tiny 50cc scooter from Indanagar to Old Airport Road here in 10 minutes.
Right.
Like zero, like I could just zip through. Like beautiful times.
Right.
So that was the era. And so then completely fell in love with it and said, okay, I'm going to be here only.
Right.
And we'll keep traveling to Chennai, but home is all here. That
Right.
became my passport from
Right.
this address, and I
Right.
became a citizen of.
Right.
So then worked in GE Medical Systems. Then I wanted to evolve into a system software area. I'm from that C++ career community. So and then went into HP, Hewlett Packard in the compiler team. Worked there for 2.5 years. So then got an opportunity to go to US as part of Rational Software, a company called Rational Software. Again, if people who know Rational Software, you're probably too old. So it's good that you don't know. It's a young crowd. So it's again one of those pioneering companies building developer tools. Like a lot of things like we see Git, another thing if you guys have heard of those tech, Jira, and those things, they were the precursors of all of that.
Right.
They built all that tech very, very early. Then they eventually got acquired by IBM.
Right.
And then had a slow death as part of it. And then, so I was part of the Rational team in the US. Then I got married. I moved back to India.
Right.
My wife is a doctor. So, and then, meanwhile, Rational got acquired by IBM. And I continued to work in IBM in India.
Right.
Around 2007, I got bored of working in large companies. Didn't want to go after that corporate race. So then startups were non-integrated. Like those are not a concept at that point. 2007, this is a service economy. India was still a predominantly service economy.
Right.
And then, so then I joined a small services startup. The word was not startup, but a small services company called S7 Software.
Right.
Joined there as a architect for a RAM and then became a director of engineering there for 2 years.
Right.
And then that company got acquired by a US company. Again, went back to the corporate world.
Right.
And then for 2 years worked there, and then as luck would have it, they got acquired.
Right.
And then they shut down the India office.
Right.
And then they shut down India office. And meanwhile, me and my friends from IBM, we would talk and say, I was like, I don't want to work in a corporate man. Now, but then we all liked working together.
Right.
All my IBM friends, we all liked to work. Now the only way we're going to work together again was like, is to form our own company.
Right.
Otherwise, we're not going to ever work back. We can't go back and join the same company. We've all gone our own base.
Right.
So we said, okay, in 2 years after my golden handcuff is done with my acquiring company, we'll start a company.
Right. This
Then
was how many of you?
This is 4 of us.
4 of you.
4.5. There's a fifth guy who also was part of the conspiration, but
Right.
like we were 4 of us who started this.
Right.
So 2010 onward, we started planning.
Right.
What are we going to do? So this acquisition happened in 2010. As soon as acquisition happened, I knew I'm going to get out soon.
Right.
So we started planning.
Right.
It took us 2 years to come up with some ideas of what exactly we want to be able to do.
So,
Around 2012, then the shutdown
Right.
happened. That turned out to be a great story because we got some time to make actually, because otherwise starting your own company is always it's easy to dream and romanticize, but to actually give a resignation letter and say, okay, from tomorrow, no salary.
right.
Right? It's a hard decision to make.
So you had, who was the leader amongst these 4 in terms of conceptualizing this idea and bringing together? Who took the
idea-
lead?
So the emotional leadership I would have, because like
Right.
I was the guy who everybody else is still working in a corporate world, right?
Right.
Like one of my friends is still working in Apple.
Right.
Another guy is working in IBM. Another guy is working in Yahoo. So they are all still working in a corporate setup.
Right.
I was the guy who had gone out of a corporate setup to work in a small company, learn business in some sense,
Right.
and do this. So I was different from them from these kind of directions.
Right,
So people
right.
tend to look
Right.
at me, and I was the guy who was a little adventurous in being able to do this. So that's it.
Right.
But the idea was a joint idea.
Right.
We would every week come together, list out ideas, and then vote on which
So all
ideas.
4 of them had to write this resignation letter.
3 of them. I think.
3 of them.
Because I was lucky because I got fired, or rather I got laid off.
Right.
The company shut down, and so I got laid off. The other
Okay.
3 had to explicitly write resignation.
This is Rational Software we're talking about, which
All of
got
them
acquired by IBM.
No. So I guess I spoke
After
too,
IBM.
I spoke too fast, and so let me again trace it. I worked in IBM.
Yeah.
And then I left IBM. My
Right.
colleagues are all working in IBM.
Right. Okay.
I left IBM, and then I joined this S7 Software.
Right.
And then S7 Software after 2 years got acquired by a US company.
Right.
And then when the US company acquisition happened, I knew that I didn't want to work in that
Right.
company for too long. I was going to decide to do something
Right.
else.
Right.
That is the time when I connected with my old IBM colleagues.
Okay.
Who meanwhile had gone and do other things.
Okay.
3 of them.
Okay.
One guy was still working in IBM.
Right.
One guy had moved to Delhi to work in Yahoo.
Right.
One guy went to US to do his masters.
Right.
And after masters, he was working in Apple.
Okay. Okay.
So the 3 of us plus me,
okay.
when I was in that
Right.
2010 frame,
Right.
so we met again in a marriage everywhere, and then we all reconnected and said, okay, well, let's do something together.
Right.
So then for 2 years, we were brainstorming and figuring out what we want to be able to do.
Right.
We had set like 2012, we'll give ourselves 2 years
Right.
so that we can earn some money to our savings. We all committed some X money to the company and stuff like that. And we said, okay, 2 years from now, we will put down and resign and come and join this company. I'll start our company. Right? So that was our plan. Luckily, in 2012, whichever company I was forced to do this because my company shut down. My existing company shut down because they got acquired and they shut down the India office. Now that essentially said, okay, that meant, okay, I'm now starting.
Yeah, you're available.
I'm available. Yeah. Now since I became available, the other three who were already committed emotionally to it, they were also fine. Now that you are starting, then give us 2 months, 3 months. Everybody took some time. One guy continued to work in Apple because for him he was in US. Now he could not just come. It's a much more harder decision. But then it's fine. I will work part time. I will moonlight. In the evening I'll work for you. Morning I'll go and work in Apple. So we were for a while we were planning like this. So that's how we started. In 2012 we formally started. This company where for me for 3 months I was alone working in Coffee Day in other places while the team put down their papers and actually formally joined.
So what you started was Slang Labs?
No, this is Little I.
Yeah.
This is the previous company.
Yeah. How do you pronounce it?
Little I Labs.
Little I Labs. This was the company which Facebook acquired. Okay.
So this is in 2012.
Okay.
So 2012, by end of 2012, the entire team had come. We had all started the company, operations and everything, and got acquired in 2013. 2014, formally in 2014. But in 2013 is where the process started.
What was Little I Labs?
Yeah, Little I Labs is a performance analysis tool for mobile developers. The problem that they are solving was like around 2009 is where the smartphone era kickstarted. And 2012 and all is where it was becoming mainstream. Android and everyone else started using it. And Facebook was becoming a mainstream mobile first company in 2012. Till then it was a more desktop company. 2012 they became a mobile first company. Anyway, that's Facebook. So now what we were doing was like one of the biggest pain points for mobile phone users is the battery. If whoever still remembers, anybody has used Nokia phones of the previous era. We didn't have a battery problem. It would run for a week. One charge, run for a week. We upgraded to a smartphone and we lost the smartness with respect to power. It became like every 6 hours, every 12 hours, you have to charge your battery. Now, what is the problem? It's not like the battery was weaker or anything. The primary problem was apps that are running on this phone are constantly doing something and sucking the battery. In the Nokia phones, the apps are not doing anything. There's no app at all. Here, like, because the apps are constantly running, they are sucking the battery and making the life of the end user is poor. And the root cause is the app is running. But as a developer, you had no idea about how much your app is consuming power. Because there were no tools to measure what is the power consumed by your app. The only way they would measure in those days is like they will install an app on a phone, and then they'll physically connect that thing to a meter, battery meter, and run it, keep it running for like 12 hours. And then say, okay, this app is in the foreground. After 12 hours, how much battery it drained? I remove the app, I run the same thing for 12 hours, how much battery it drained? That was the crude way in which they would do battery tests. Right? So this is such a poor way of testing, and which means no developer would ever test this. Right? And a developer just keep building whatever they want, release it to the world. It's you and me to crib about it, but there's nothing the developer could do. Right? And so the net result would happen, like if you ever see that some app is draining battery or something is causing, you would uninstall the app. Right? And then that became the pain. So it's a strong pain factor. And so that is what we started saying. Okay, how do we make the life of a developer from a developer's perspective?
And who would pay for it?
The developer.
Developers.
It's a developer's app.
Okay. So he would test his app as to how much battery it consumes. So that is how he would make it.
He would make it. Yeah, exactly. We were licensing that software to them. And then they would test it, and then.
And when you got acquired, how big a team was it?
Small team, 8 people.
8 people. And I think it's very interesting to know, did you make a lot of money out of the acquisition?
We made a decent money. In today's scale, it might sound small, but it was a decent money.
Okay. And that because you had that money, and you never wanted to go back to a job. We wanted to start one more, which is Slang Labs. That naturally happened. Okay, so I'm going a little back. So when you 4 of you decided to build this company, right? So I don't know, for me, today, if I have to answer that question, why did I ever become an entrepreneur in the first case, right? I don't think it is, say, what I faced 1, 2, 3 years before I started or something. Somewhere, I don't know, I am able to connect it to my childhood, right? The personality that you are since childhood, the things that you did in school, the things, how you behave with your family, that is that personality, which then sometimes it it is clear, it comes out when you are say 20 plus,
Sure.
and then it is clear what it wants to do, right? So are you able to connect something like that, or is it just happened that you were bored and without corporate?
Good, very good. So, in my, like I said, I'm 175. So in that era, like I'm a middle class family, upbringing, government servants, parents. We don't have any entrepreneurial blood in our anywhere. Right. Except for my one uncle who runs a company. Everybody else is like working in companies.
Right.
We don't have any such entrepreneurial instincts.
Right.
But I guess I've had some stints here and there. If I look back, I've run a library in my school word and all, but there was nothing serious about it. So when I left college, there was no ambition to be local, let us build a company. Just work in a company, corporate and everything. Then you started enjoying your field and work. So I kept doing it. Beyond a point, around, like I said, around 2006-7, after having worked for around probably 20 years in the industry, is where this thing starts to come in, like what are we doing? Like, what is next? Like midlife crisis, there are different terms for it, like essentially to be able to say like, what is the next, what are we aspiring for? What is it that we are aspiring for? Is it about titles? You work in a corporate, you should have titles, okay, it should be about title, get a corner office, whatever be the thing. None of them appealed. Right? None of them appealed and to that part. Right? And financial requirements also relatively not much. Fairly settled thing. So none of them. So what next? What is the next big thing for us? What is the challenge you want to be able to know to? And again, like in that time, like starting a company was again not a very common thing to do. So that okay, the easiest thing is to, instead of working in a large company where I'll be a small cog in a large thing, let me go work in a small company. So I sort of understand a different sort of a challenge. Anything and everything that a company does, I will know. Small things, if you buy a small machine, you will know what is the intent of the machine, what is the cost of the machine, what is the ROI, everything will be known in a smaller setup, as opposed to being an IBM where everything is taken, you just focus on your code and everything. So that was the initial exercise to work in a small company. So I had a very organic, my thing was very, very organic relatively. Right? Okay, from here to, okay, let's work in a small company. So after having worked in a small company, and I like the notion of working in a small company and this camaraderie that we can have in a small company as opposed to a large company. You start enjoying this experience. So then you like the freedom and you like this control that you start to get. That's what you start to like. So then that was the next point. Okay, now what do you want to do? Okay, you want to enjoy freedom, you want to be able to be in the driver's seat. Like you are okay to be a head of a rat as opposed to being a tail of a lion. Right? Like that's your sort of a thing. And you want to be a head of a rat and eventually become a head of a lion, but you want to be in that leading role. You want to be in control rather than being told by someone else what to be done. Right? So that's sort of that instinct to core. Luckily, my other co-founders also had similar sort of a thing. Very different varying things, but they all wanted that, okay, they want to be in the control of their own destiny for some level. They want to try this experiment. For me and my other co-founders, very clear, but a couple of them are.
But then when you sold your first company, so wasn't that, so a lot of people are not able to give up on their company, or a lot of some people get emotional about their company. So the Facebook found you, or you found them, or how did the decision happen of getting acquired and giving away your company?
So two answers to the question. So the first thing is the fact, like moment you run a company, you start a company, and then there's a decision point very, very early. Moment you take external funding. Right? Now that's the
which you have taken for
very, very early. Right? In Little Eye, we joined an accelerator program. Right? So that's when the notion of an investor came into our life. Till then, I have never seen an investor. This is again way back in 2012. It's not as popular the term as it is now. In those days, VCs were called as vulture capitalist. Right? That is a term that people would commonly, because you don't know that, you don't know it. You just think of them as like them, some kind of a thing. Then you enter the startup ecosystem. Right? You enter the startup ecosystem, and then you realize this is a different model. And then you realize, okay, the reason why people raise money is to be able to know if you want to grow without you having made the money. If you make the money and grow, that's a slower process. If you want to be able to grow in a slightly inorganic way, the only way is to be able to take external cash infusion, do some things, and then hope, and then you're going to grow. So it's a different logical model. So at some point in time, we had to decision about whether we want to be able to take external money or not. So then we had our own internal judgment about, okay, what does the implication of taking external money? Moment you take external money, you have to be able to give back. You have to have a good reason for why you're taking external money. Whether if you want an organic growth path, make money, invest, sort of like Zoho, sort of a thing. Or like the example that we used to think of was like Vidyarthi Bhavan. People are familiar with this portal called Vidyarthi Bhavan in Pasangudi area. Right? It's a small restaurant, only one restaurant all over. super popular, but still only one. They had a very, very slow organic growth.
Right.
Whether you want to be that Vidyarthi Bhavan model, or the other alternative is like a Sarada Bhavan.
Right.
People are from Chennai and other, like Sarada Bhavan is like popular chain all over the world.
Right.
What is your aspiration?
Right.
Do you want to build a Vidyarthi Bhavan or do you want to build a Sarada Bhavan?
Right.
If you want to build a Sarada Bhavan, which means that you need that external cash infusion to be able to now grow, make money.
But by that time, you were clear that this is a venture fundable business?
No, that's right. Exactly. I'll come back to it. So this is so you are initially making this, where are you trying to go? What kind of a company are you trying to build?
Yes.
Okay, initially then we set back, we were also not very clear, right?
Okay.
Initially. Then we said, okay, moment this opportunity of investment and everything came, we said, what do we want to be?
Okay.
We're building a first company, do you want to be like a Vidyarthi Bhavan or do you want to be like a Sarada Bhavan?
Right.
We said, okay, let's do a Sarada Bhavan model. Okay. Let's try to grow.
Right.
We chose that consciously.
Right.
Now, moment you go down that path,
Right.
which means you're taking external money.
Capital, yeah.
Now, moment you take external money, now what are the implications of external money?
Right.
You have to return back the money.
Yes.
Right? You can't just, it's not nobody's giving for free.
Yes.
They are returning back. So now how are you going to return back the money?
Yes.
There are only 3 ways to return back the money.
Right.
Correct? One way is to go IPO.
Right.
Now, IPO today seems like a much more, but again, this is 2012. Indian IPO, tech IPO, were not even a thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And whether you have the appetite, whether you have that, different story.
Right.
So that is one.
Right.
The other thing is for you to be able to now get acquired. Acquisition is another thing.
Correct.
Right? Someone has to acquire it.
Correct.
Or third is like you take from one VC to another VC and keep
Correct.
paying those monies.
Correct,
But
correct.
but the end goal is again to go to IPO.
IPO, yeah.
It has to be an IPO or a, there are only 2. There's not 3.
Yeah, yeah.
Finally, there are 2.
Correct.
So you have to be clear at some point it is going to be these 2.
Correct.
Now for us, when we looked at ourselves, which one is a logical endpoint for us?
Do you think there could be a fourth option where
What is it?
the company does so well and has so much cash flow, profits generated, that you are able to pay back the investor with 5x, 10x returns?
Which is, at least historically, it has never happened.
Never happened,
It has
right?
never happened that way. Like a dividend sort of a payment has never happened.
Right.
Because
right.
as you grow as if you stop, for example, you took your money at only at $1 million or 10 and you became a $100 million company taking
Right.
revenue,
Right.
then you will potentially have the cash flow to pay them.
Right.
But you take 1 million at some point, then you take 10 million, then you take 100 million, then you take 200. The
Then
money
it's-
you are raising is also higher. You are never going to be able to now have more than that
Right.
cash reserves
Right.
to be able to now pay them off.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So the only way is to be able to now go to a public
Right.
event. I don't think anybody so far at least
Correct.
paid out a dividend
Correct.
sort of a model
Correct.
to be able to now repay the equity of the customer, the investor.
Correct.
And that's why they do debt. So today there's option of debt funds.
Correct.
If you go down the debt fund model, then you can do this.
Yes. Yes.
You can then repay and then you can
Yes.
settle that part. Now
Yes.
now today the adventurous
Yes.
they have started going down that path also.
Yes.
But that's a risk you're taking.
Correct.
You have to be able, now today the fourth option is also opened up.
Correct.
Again in that days 2010, that option was not there.
Correct.
It's only 2 stages.
So you went that route.
So what I'm saying is like, I'm answering your first question about like, moment you take money,
Correct.
you are sort of, at the very, very early, you have sort of decided that it's not like the Vidyarthi Bhavan model where you are in
Yes.
complete control of yourself.
Yes.
At some point, you have to be able to repay the money.
Yes.
And these are the only 2 ways to repay the money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you have to be conscious of that fact.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
when is a different story.
Correct.
But that's a conscious pre-decision you have made.
Correct.
But the implication of you taking money.
Correct.
Now, when the opportunity to actually exit came, when Facebook, and then we'll come to the how did we meet Facebook sort of the
Right.
story. So the way we met Facebook was like, I'll come to that story later, but when the Facebook exit option came,
Right.
so then we looked at ourselves and said like when we asked ourselves a question, okay, because it's very early, right? It's just 1 year
Right.
of our life we have gotten this opportunity
Right.
or to exit, and we had a choice, and we were actually profitable in the sense like, not profitable, but we were making good revenues.
Right.
Very, very early, our product was actually being globally used and we were making good money.
Okay.
Started to make good money.
Okay.
So we could have continued down that path.
Okay.
So, but then we asked ourselves a hard question. Then what is it that you're looking for? What are we? What kind of a personality are we? Very, very early. We said, our thing was, okay, our notion of building this itself was this naive notion that Indians can build a global product. Again, remember, this is 2012, 13 times. When product building from India was not a very popular thing. Right? So our engineering instinct, we're engineers at heart. Our engineering was how do you build a product from India that's going to be used in the global market. That was our vision, to be able to build it. When Facebook acquisition option came, along with that Google and Twitter and few other things also came, along with that, then our validation was like, this is great. We have actually built a global product.
Correct.
This is like the West wants to be able to use what the East has built.
Correct.
Right? And so that was a great validation. And so like, okay, for us, this was a good, satisfactory outcome. The financially was a decent thing.
Correct.
And again, and that's also where probably our middle class mindset also sort of kicked in. To be able to say like, okay, it's enough. Sort of a mindset.
Correct.
Financially, it's a good enough thing. And then we said, okay, let's go and do
Okay.
this next adventure with Facebook for a while.
Okay.
And we knew, okay, and this is not like the end of our life of entrepreneur. We'll again come back and do another one later.
Right.
But let's now do this
Right.
for our first.
And when they acquire, you have to leave the board or?
When acquisition happens, there are two ways in acquisition happens. One is what is called as they entirely buy the company.
Right.
And then the other company, like where they just buy the assets. The company still remains as it is. They don't buy the company. They just take the assets of the company.
Right.
In our case, it's a proper merger. They took our company itself.
Okay.
But moment they take control of the company,
Right.
now it's a choice between, like, depending on the kind of thing, like whether you want to remain in the board, because your company is namesake company anymore.
Yes.
You are part of the larger
Yes.
entity only. Now,
Yes.
you being in the board and just worrying about regulatory stuff is irrelevant.
Right. Right.
Because you are now anyway part of the larger system.
Right.
So you should not think in those board and those kind of things.
Right.
Now it's whether you have, and we are product people.
Right.
As long as you have control over your product,
Right. Right.
that is, you have the control. In
Right.
some reasonable sense, you have control. As long
Right.
as you have control over the product and what you can do with it, then we are happy with it.
Right.
So that is good enough.
Right. So you are just mentioning, how did you meet Facebook?
So the way Facebook meeting was like, so we would, we were a developer tool company. Like I said, we are building products that developers will consume.
Right.
So we used to be fairly active in conferences.
Okay.
Right? So we were Tech Sparks, where
Right.
you were, you said
Right.
like we were an Android developer
Right.
conferences we used to be.
Right.
Tech Sparks was our starting point, where we, very, very early we presented at Tech Sparks, one of the early
Right.
editions of Tech Sparks we presented. We were one of the, there's no winner, there was a winner, clear winner there, but we were one of the top players in that. So
Right.
people started noticing us.
Right.
So then we were GSF accelerator. So
Right.
they were again a first time accelerator at that point.
Right.
So they invited us to become part of their accelerator.
Right.
We joined, and then we used to be fairly active in a lot of conferences.
Okay.
Essentially dev conference.
Okay.
Android dev conference,
Okay.
because that's our where our target was. In India, we were part of it. And since we are building a very fairly unique product, there was not too many dev tools coming from India.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Very unique product. So all the Android developers here would like us.
Okay.
And they would invite us to come and speak
Okay.
in conferences.
Okay.
Right? So we would go and talk in those conferences.
Okay.
So that's what people from Google saw in one such conference. People in Google in India,
Right.
they saw Google from US had come for that conference. They liked what we're doing.
Right.
So we connected.
Right.
We said, okay, next time if I ever come to US, come and talk to me.
Right.
We just gave a very high level and went off.
Right.
So then we, later in 2013, when that opportunity, when our product became ready,
Right.
we went and told, hey, our product is ready, can we talk to you? They said,
Right.
oh, great. We spoke and then said, we have a Google I/O, is an event that happens
Right.
every year.
Right.
Can you come and have a booth? We'll invite you to come and have a booth in Google I/O, and you can,
Right.
and people can come and see.
Right.
Google I/O is a very invite-only event.
Uh-huh.
You can't buy those. Our ambition in 2012 when we started the company was like we should somehow buy one ticket for Google I/O.
Okay.
We were lucky that they invited us to have a booth and gave us
Right.
3 free tickets and come and set up a
Okay.
booth.
Okay.
So we went and had a booth. And
Okay.
before this, as part of GSF, we used to do a world tour.
Okay.
So GSF will take us on world tours.
Okay.
So one in such, and there was a couple of times we had traveled.
Right.
We went to London and then we presented our product in again an Android conference there.
Right.
Right? And then there again somebody from Facebook in London came and saw our product.
Okay.
They liked what we're doing.
Okay.
They connected us to their team and we had a meeting, but nothing happened. And then
Right.
that as a product customer, they spoke, asked, and then
Right.
they were left.
Right.
Then again in Google I/O, when we
Right.
went the next year,
Right.
6 months later, when we went to
Right.
Google I/O, and again we had a booth.
Right.
People from Google, Facebook came and saw what we were building.
Right.
And luck played a lot of factor because that at the time, Facebook was becoming a mobile-first company.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they invest heavily in tooling.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't use third-party tools, they build everything on their own.
Right.
Because they are such a large company, they try to build everything on their own.
Right.
So when they saw our tool, and they were becoming a mobile-first company, and they had no such tool inside Facebook.
Right.
They said, this is great for us.
Right.
Why don't you come and take this tool and make it available for my suite of products and my
Right.
set of developers.
Right.
Instead of building for the world, come and build for us.
Right.
Right? So that's, and the way it happened was like this other thing, but that sort of other thing. Like, so they saw our product,
Right.
and then we had, similarly, Twitter had also seen our product.
Right.
They were interested also.
Right.
So when they were interested, we went and told Facebook, hey, we have some option. They said, oh, why don't you come and we would also like to talk to you.
Right.
And then for a while.
At that time, you still don't know that this is a merger or an acquisition deal.
So initially, when we were talking to Facebook, we knew this was a customer thing.
Correct. Correct.
Second time
Which was
when
in
we-
London.
That's a
and-
London
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Second time when we went to talk to Facebook,
Yeah.
began as the acquisition
Yeah.
thing only.
Okay. Okay.
Because by the time Twitter had told us, hey, I'm interested to acquire you,
Okay.
and we had sort of suspected Facebook might be interested in what we're doing.
Okay.
Because of some of the questions they had asked and everything. At least there was an intuition, but we had no idea.
Okay.
Right? It can be.
So-
So,
so-
then Facebook got to know that some other company is interested to acquire us.
Right.
So then they only offered, saying, hey,
Right. So it matters so much to be consistent, right? Like for example, you were in London.
yes.
That time there was no acquisition conversation.
There's no acquisition.
But then they saw you again in US.
Correct.
and then they said, now the timing is also right, and you said you are lucky.
Correct.
So a lot of times when we are consistently showing up to a customer
Correct.
or to a vendor or to a investor, right? Suddenly, things change, and new opportunities come. So I think that's a very good learning.
This is famous saying, is there, right? Luck by chance, and then success meets preparedness.
Right.
Like luck meets preparedness is success. Right? So
Right.
you got to be prepared.
Right.
Luck you can't manufacture somehow, but then there is also some things you can do to manufacture luck by chance. It seems like you have to be at the right places.
Right.
Right? If your potential opportunities exist there, if you are not there, if people don't know who you are,
Right.
if the US people don't know that such a company like India exists,
Right.
how will they even? So
Yeah.
you have to be visible there.
Correct.
You have to be visible at the right places.
So when this deal happened, is it like you put up a price or they offered a price, or how did that happen?
So that is.
How do you first arrive at value?
So the way, again, this is our corporate mindset or like Excel sheet mindset way. So what we did is the way we approach it, so when we are having a discussion with so the way it typically happens is the product team started the conversation. Then they don't discuss, they don't do all this negotiation. Right. They hand it off to another team called Corp Dev.
Right.
The Corp Dev is a fancier version of the HR sort of a notion.
Right.
They deal typically with these kind of high level, not individual people relationship, but company level, the corporate level relationship they handle.
Right.
So now they were handed off to this thing. So they do an evaluation, they look at your cap table, they ask you a bunch of questions, and then they go into this kind of a discussion. Okay, let's talk about money.
Right.
So different companies have different models. In the Facebook case, they said, okay, you tell me a price.
Right.
Quote me a price. Right? So that's how their negotiation taken. Now we were not sure what to ask.
Right.
What is ask that is there? What is too high? What is too low? We don't know.
Right.
So then we said, okay, how do you decide it? So we went and asked our another Corp Dev friend in India,
Right.
because we were part of GSF, so I had met this guy in another event.
Okay.
We went and asked him, okay, man, a company of our size, we have an opportunity from somebody.
Right.
Some company is interested to acquire us.
Right.
We don't know what to call. You tell me, if you were in that position,
Right.
what is your price that you will offer?
Right.
Because he is in that same road. He has done it for other companies.
Right.
So he gave us some number. He said, "Man, this is what I think we'll offer."
Right.
So then we asked ourselves, okay, what does this mean? If
Right.
this price is and we said, okay, this is the lower benchmark price.
Right.
We would be, this still makes financial sense, but this is the lowest benchmark we can go to.
Right.
So then what is our multiplier that we can apply? What is the maximum we can expect? So then we looked at other companies which Facebook or other companies have acquired in the past, something similar to our kind of a tech that we are offering.
Right.
What is the market they had offered?
Right.
That became the top end of the price. Okay, that's because again that's a US company. There's a different sort of valuation that happens. Indian company, different sort of valuation. But at least we know that's similar because they were a bigger size company.
Right.
But that became sort of like the seal price.
Right.
So we knew that's a seal price. This is the bottom price.
Right.
Now somewhere between this is what we have to be able to now figure out our thing.
Right.
And since we are agreed on the bottom price, for us financially it made this was okay.
Right.
Anything above that is what we are okay. So then we knew this and we asked that.
Right.
Then they came down to the middle.
Right. So
Again, I'm just saying in answer, but sort of.
I think this will help a lot of entrepreneurs when you are somebody interested in your company, and how do you try and assess your company, because a lot of people, when they have valuation in place, there are 1 or 2 rounds happened, then I think
Then
you
it's
have a value.
It's a multiplier on top of that or whatever.
Yeah. So coming to Slang Labs, right? How big is the Slang Labs team?
They're still a fairly small, but at 22 people right now.
22 people. And I have seen on your LinkedIn it says dictatorship or something. Can you tell us more about what that means? What's the idea behind it?
My title is called Obsessive Dictator.
Obsessive dictator, yes.
So now there are two sides to that story. So
Right.
even in Little I, the title I had was called Chief Ion and those guys. So we were very, like I said, like we were very, there are a couple of reasons. One is like this notion of title, we were not very for. Former title. Like, because that's what I was running away from title. I didn't want to work for a title, senior VP, like that title thing felt very somehow odd. We didn't want to be part of that.
Right.
But at the same time, for us, when you're interacting with the customer, you're talking to somebody, you don't need to have a title.
Right.
You have to have something that
To tell you who you are.
To tell you who you are, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I say like, and we always want to be like a difference at every single point where we can.
Right.
Because to make people remember, because you're going to be meeting hundreds of people. If you want to stand out, what can you do?
Right.
Right? And you can't do, we are not crazy stuff, but what are the minimum, some interesting thing you can do? So the thing that we typically do is, okay, our cards will, in those days, when QR code was not a thing, our card used to have a QR code. Right? And our title will have Chief Ion. So that every time, invariably when I give a card to somebody, they would remember. This I got from my other, the S7's CEO in the middle I worked on. That guy used to say, differentiate or die. Right? That's a very famous book, and that was his Tarak Mantra. Every single thing you do, can you make sure that you stand out? Otherwise, you're just one among the crowd, and then nobody will ever notice. Like, what can you do? And each one have our own style of standing out. Now, Ranbir's thing has his own style. He has his own style of standing out in a different way. Like that, you can't do that. Right? Now, how do you now make yourself stand out in a certain, in your DNA style stuff? So these were the things. Okay, now that part. Similarly, T-shirt was one such thing. Like you again go back to that. In those days, again, people would not wear their company T-shirts in a conference. Like in TechSparks in 2012, we were the only company wearing our company logo T-shirt. Everyone was wearing somebody else's T-shirt. Like, man, what is this? Like, just such an obvious branding opportunity to be able to do, and then people not do. Right? That was like so skill. Similarly, coming back to Slang Labs. So one, we were aware of titles. Now we had to come up with something that would make it interesting. Now what we said this time is like we will choose titles that truly represents our personality. Right? Like what we would like to call each other. Right? So my co-founder is called Spacekeeper. So Spacekeeper, like if people have watched the Silicon Valley series, and if you guys have watched the Silicon Valley comedy series, so they're the CTO of the company, or the CEO of the company. He's a nerd, and he's so obsessed about like when you in code, when you create the indentation, space versus tabs. Right? And he would break up with his girlfriend because she would use tabs and he would use spaces, or the other way. Right? So he was so finicky about that level of stuff. And so he was like of that quality. So we called him Spacekeeper. He would care about every single dot and thing about from a code perspective. The other co-founder, he called him Disorder Brewer. Because he would always create trouble. Me and him have had physical fights in office, and we would record it and put like, it's just fun, not serious, but he would always try to create that thing. So we said, oh, your title is Disorder Brewer. And I tend to be very obsessive about small things. Color, I would have hours and hours of argument with my designer about this color, this green, and every single thing we would argue. Small things, we would be very obsessed about it. So we said, okay, man, you are a dictator. Sakai is a dictator. You call me Kim in office. So I said, let's put obsessive dictator as your title. So that is sort of like the backstory. Like we would put it, and so also it made people would remember. Like you remembered, if you had just seen CEO, nobody will remember that. It's just one such title. So like, how do you do it and still be true to your personality, but not make it seem like a negative word, because dictator typically is a negative word, but how do you still convey it's not a negative word? So in my signature, I'll put a smiley next to signature, dictator, to sort of smoothen, at least soften the blow for people who read whatever you can do to do this. So those are the...
So what's your mantra on management? What's your management mantra? Like for example, when you deal with people, if your majority of your team is in the age group of 20 to 30 or whichever way, right? Everybody has their normal call of duty.
Correct.
Everybody has their monthly payouts. But beyond that, what problems do you face with your team and how do you overcome? Or are you a proactive leader before the problem arises by itself? You take care of a few things because you're dealing with say 22 different souls, right? 22 different minds, and it's very important that for you to take your ship in the right direction, that the team has to be in place. So is there anything that you do which is appraisals understood? What do you call?
No appraisals.
No appraisals? Okay, there is say huddles or whatever you do to keep the energy in the things going.
Yeah, so again, I should ask the team because it's easy for me to just say whatever blubber in here and then...
I'll just share two things about ourselves. Like, I don't know, I mean, I just thought there are two things that I changed in the company, which is nobody will be referred as employees. We replaced the word employees with team member. Just that we wanted that subconsciously also that feeling of being employee, which is that I am an employee here, I come, I get paid for what I do. That mindset I didn't want because you are a team member. Tomorrow you could end up with ESOPs. Tomorrow this could become a very big company. You could be a very vital part of the company. So that mindset I wanted. And second thing was we avoided the word salary. We replaced it with payouts. So that you're not getting a pagar. I mean, you are not getting salary. It's a payout. So there is no much difference. It's the same thing. But at least subconsciously I wanted to change the thought process. So. I don't know how much of it is working, not working. I'm still trying to see it, but Chaitra is our people manager and she tries to work closely with people to understand them, how I can make them perform better, etc. So something that like that you have in you that you want, which can help us understand.
I think the two words which come to my mind, which I think we have done fairly there, is to be like open and trust, right? Which that level of trust, that openness and fairness and trust and those things. Now it's a keyword. Typically, everyone says it. Who doesn't say they're open? Who doesn't say they're fair, worthy, interest? Like, what actions do you actually do for people to feel that honestly and truly? Right? That's the main thing.
Right.
So the things that we do is like to be able to now, for example, this is something that I learned. The two who I got inspired with in my journey.
Right.
Again, my CEO, the 2-3 people. Right? So, when I went to Rational, when I joined Rational,
Right.
I was interviewed by a director level person. I got the offer. I was a junior person at that point.
Right.
Then just when I was about to join, I went and met the head of the Rational India.
Right.
Obviously. And he asked me, what is your salary? I said, A is a salary. He said, that's all. You should have given me more, no?
Right.
Like, now the fact that someone even says this kind of a sentence, right?
Right.
He is a man in power, and he says like, why? Oh, you should have gotten more salary. No, nobody will say, even if it is true, even if they cheated me out of something or whatever, right? They would not say it. You would keep it internal. Say very openly and bluntly. He said, oh, we should have gotten more salary, or maybe we'll figure out later. Sort of a thing.
Right.
And I've signed the deal and everything. Right? So now that, I didn't think of it as a negative. I thought it was an awesome positiveness that he's being so candid about what he thinks.
Right.
Now that is one example of being extremely open and transparent and being very candid about whether it is wrong or say or admit it.
Right.
Second thing, when I went to another, my S7, that company, the small startup when I joined,
Right.
when I was interviewed by the CEO,
Right.
the entire interview was happening in this room, but the
Right.
door was open.
Okay.
The door was not locked.
Okay.
And there were people just out, this is a small office.
Yeah.
People are all sitting outside the office and they could easily listen to whatever.
Okay.
And I'm asking kind of tough questions about future, blah, blah, everything I'm asking, because I'm coming as a senior person.
Right.
And he's answering all these things. And the whole meeting was run with the door open.
Okay.
Now that really stuck me. I think I have not used to this. Like when I work in IBM, everything is all closed door.
Yeah.
Setup. People ask me.
Yeah.
The door is completely open.
Yeah.
Truly open door, sort of a.
Especially hiring is very tricky.
Tricky. Like I'm asking salary, guilty, everything.
Yeah,
I'm asking,
yeah,
still
yeah.
the door is open.
Yeah.
I was like blown away. What is this? Like this is these are all the examples that I wanted to be able to know. Then I go to Facebook.
Right.
Now when Facebook, which we did in Little, also we did a little bit, but then the Facebook was the next level.
Right.
Now Facebook is a much bigger company. 10,000 people in there.
Mm.
But still, even at that, every Friday,
Mm.
Mark would conduct an all-hands meeting with the entire company. So people remote will join by, if you're, it's optional, people can come, but he would be there physically most of the time, unless he's traveling. And he would take questions from everybody. Typically, it's the interns who join will ask the most questions. Right? And then he'll be, and the way he answers those questions, he'll be extremely open.
Okay.
They say everything is open. No, you cannot have to stop asking anything.
Okay.
Except for some 3 things. About acquisition you can ask,
Right.
because there's some impending acquisition you can ask. You
Right.
can ask about a person,
Right.
like some, or you can ask about revenue sort of thing. Because there's a insider trading,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
legal, except for these 3 things, everything is open.
Okay.
And you would see that in reality. Like when there's a guy who would come and talk about like one example where they did something called bug every Friday when people, one of the event was like about some bug of the week or something.
Right.
Where you would come and talk about because typically all the fame and everything in Facebook comes to the people who build new features. Because
Right.
when Facebook even does a small color change, it will come in TechCrunch, will come somewhere, people talk about it. So the guy who built that feature will feel very happy. But the people who are doing behind the scenes work, bug fixing everything, nobody ever gets that public recognition. A company like Facebook is so public, you never get that recognition. So to get that recognition, so Mark started this thing called the bug of the week sort of a thing, and where the most impactful bug will get spoken about in that week.
Right.
One such bug was like when someone came and spoke about this bug which is running, the technical bug, which is because of this bug, the CPU was spinning a lot more. And we were burning around $50 million per month because of this extra at Facebook scale, right? This bug was causing the CPU to spin a lot more, and so because of more spinning, more and more CPUs had to serve some thing, and so the number of devices to serve the request was higher. Somebody went and fixed that bug. So $50 million drop in billing.
Right. Okay.
Now, when the spy says about this, instinctively, it's like, you tend to blame somebody, right? Who's the guy who created the bug? How can you be so careless? $50 million per month you've been spending. His instinct was to clap. Awesome, man. You went and solved this problem. Forget about the past that you did. That's not, nobody did it intentionally. You don't go back and look at that past who did that bug. You saw about this guy who solved the problem and appreciate this and move on. Because you have, the culture was about pirate culture in Facebook, like be bold, break things. Now, it's okay to give slogans. But where does it happen in real life? Where can I experience it in real life? Like these kind of things is where you start to experience. Small things like this. It stuck to my brain. Like these are the things that matter. For people to feel truly open and think, you should feel empowered, not feel afraid. You should be transparent. When someone says, like for example, I still remember not to, like in corporate America, India, when you start to ask, the answer is always very polished. It is very polished. No, like this, blah, blah, blah. You don't be very, you know that
Very
the answer
shallow.
is very, not very true. Right?
Yeah.
But when you speak, listen to Mark, when he speaks, you feel like it's all open arms.
Right.
The same thing my other guy, CEO, S7, every
Right.
week he would run a all hands where like everybody can ask about things like why is this garbage thing open?
Right.
The CEO, you can ask the CEO like why is this garbage not being fixed? Why is it not being cleaned? No, any question, doesn't matter.
Right.
And he would not shy away from answering the question.
Right.
Now, those things made that, I know it's a long answer to a short
Right.
question, but that openness and transparency, and
Right.
how do you demonstrate it in every single action?
Right.
Can people truly believe when you say something, can they believe it?
Right.
How do you know demand? I think if there is one thing we did right, was to be able to now say that openness and transparency.
Right.
Second thing is about complete self-autonomy.
Right.
Like you are, like appraisal, for example, we don't have appraisals.
Is there what is the reason behind that?
Appraisal is there are two things that, like at least again, when I seen it has its pros and cons. Like there is no singular right and wrong answer.
Right.
Whereas like essentially then in some sense people start to game metrics and start to become like, okay, there's an appraisal, I have to get a good ranking, I know my salary is connected to this.
Right.
So I'm more focused on that. Because one thing you're bucketing people into 1, 2, 3, 4 rating, good, bad, whatever some
Correct.
rating, and that rating is very, in some sense, very mechanical. You're trying to bucketize people into that bucket, right?
Correct.
So people are not worried about like, oh, which bucket do I fall under?
Right.
And that bucket, since it's across multiple people, you have to come up with some standard framework.
Correct.
Now, you might be great in something and something else, other might be great in something else, but somehow you have to unify these two into one singular bucket. It becomes very hard sometimes.
Correct.
Right? So that framing of people to some singular bucket, and then since you know, like as soon as based on that bucket, your salary is going to be implied. So you tend to be very resistive about that period. Right? You're very, when appraisals happen, it's always a very nasty thing. Right? Like employee, what don't enjoy this experience.
Yes.
So instead, if it can be something that is done through the part of it, keep giving feedback constantly. There is no that one single time I'm going to get a big feedback. The feedback is a constant activity that is there. You of course give salary raises, which is there, but salary raises is sort of like a one-on-one conversation. Right? And it is all possible, especially in a small setup. In a large setup, I don't know whether it's possible, but it is in a small setup. You truly know that what is that person's capability, and then you give a very, it's a subjective way in which to be able to give a salary. And actually only like when there's complete trust that exists on both sides. When this person is now saying, here's a hike, there is a trust that the other person has on this.
Interesting. So that means that they can still get a hike,
They'll get a
but
hike.
it's not called as an appraisal.
It's not called as an
appraisal. Company continuously.
Yeah, it's a couple of happening continuously.
Yeah.
Salary hike is happening approximately once a year.
Okay.
So at some point.
Okay.
But then there is not a, oh, this moment happened and then immediately this moment happened. These are very, very strongly correlated. Then you put all your effort for just this moment. The appraisal is all that matters. Right? So then it's not that the thing that you do the entire year
Correct.
that sort of matters.
Correct. So since you've been building the Slang Labs, right? It's not easy to build a company, the team, and to see the revenues, the forecast that you have set, the targets that you've set, to meet the targets, etc., etc. And it's not an easy journey. So, how difficult was it? A difficult time? How difficult was it? Did you ever face bankruptcy kind of a situation? Did you ever cry during your entrepreneurial journey, whether it in being in Slang Labs or your first company? How was it?
I didn't cry, but I remember one event in the first time, literally. So this is like when we were very early, right? 6 months into our journey. We are again tech company, like we're building some tech, right? And then we're building this profiling tool to measure battery, blah, blah. And then we had one of the mentors who came for that as we were part of GSF Accelerator. Now they keep bringing in a bunch of external people to come and talk to you. We give a lot of feedback, we get a lot. One such guy was a general manager of Zynga, the gaming company, right? Facebook partners. We were a game company. And then we were like, and we would always show demos using games only. Angry Birds was a popular demo that we would show. I think, look how much a battery Angry Birds is consuming, things like that. So we wanted to be able to show him a demo and say, look, your app, and we would show a demo of his app and say, here's where your app is sucking battery. And We are prepared for it. You're going to impress a lot of it. You're going to show him bugs in your application, and which you would have never figured out, and our tool they would not figure out. We were having the brain. He sees it and says, so what? That is who cares? Am I going to pay money for how much are they asking? $5 per year? No, I'm not going to pay $5 for no, nobody cares. My customers don't care. Okay. So why will I pay for it? This was a huge slap in our face. We were all like pumped up, and he comes and says this feedback. I'm like super disappointed in our roller coaster. So then like we go home, I have to go home and like I'm like, what is this? Suddenly it felt like our entire there's no purpose of what we're doing. You're the decision maker of a serious enough company. It seems like this is useless what we're doing. I'm not going to pay money for it. Then we're very disappointed. So then we're not sure. Then I come back next day when I'm coming back to the same place. On the road, I see a man begging on the road. This is actually good. He's begging on the road. So I looks like a IT guy.
Oh, is it? This is in US?
This is India.
India?
India.
With a tie and
All they're all wearing a tie and he looks like a proper IT person, but he's actually on the street begging.
Okay.
And I come close, like curious, like why is he getting? We come close, he says like my kid has cancer.
Okay.
And whether you believe it or not, but at least that point felt very genuine. Right?
Okay.
My kid, I have no choice.
Okay.
I have no way but to know. Somehow I have to save my kid. I have no choice. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to save my kid.
Okay.
And that's why I'm on the street now trying to figure out what I can raise money.
Right.
Because I don't have money, I don't know raise money. This is all before that fund me and go other money. This is your company. GoFundMe is a very elite way of doing the same thing. Before that, what you have to do? You have to go ask your random person on the road. Give me the money. So he was now doing this. That somehow felt like a huge inspiration call. I mean, it's very negative, but that guy, it's such a more serious situation. He didn't give up and sit in the corner and cry. He said, what I can do, doesn't matter. I have to solve this problem. He come on road and ask me and do whatever I did. So what has happened? One guy has come and said our product is not good. But take the feedback positively. Now come and solve the problem. Understand what exactly he's saying. You might have listened to it in the wrong way. Listen to what exactly he's saying, let's come back. And then that made a significant difference in the way we changed the journey.
Okay.
We realized, okay, what he's saying is, look, if you just focus on battery, till then we are battery testing. He said, because that's a technically very interesting problem to solve. But we realized, like, if I just to focus on battery, consumers don't know about the notion of battery in the first place. If a customer is not going to force the app guy to do something, the app guy has no incentive to make it.
Correct.
Now, what are other things that we can do to now make it better? So, like for example, customers know about data if it is consuming. If it is crashing, I know it is crawling. The things that are more visible to the customer, if I can find bugs around that and show it to the app guy, and that would probably be more useful. And that our tech already was doing that. Tech already knew all these things. Technologically, we already had the answer.
Right.
We were just not showing it as part of the product.
Right.
So then we evolved into much more performance tooling, think about battery, CPU, memory, data, everything we would present using the same tech that we had.
Right.
That made the change in our product significant.
So if Google would have told the app, see, because of you guys, people think that my phone is having the battery is draining out too faster.
Yeah, okay.
So you guys have to come up with these minimum standards, something like that.
Something later.
Yeah.
Actually, Google tried it later.
Okay.
As part of the Play Store, they made we were having discussion with Google also.
Right.
As Play Store, there is no standard practice. When you upload an app, they will verify and run it through all these tools to make sure your app is not sucking battery.
Right.
So they were trying to do all those things also.
Right.
But that's sort of thing. But it's that our tool became a more broader capability set tool.
Right.
Because of that one feedback that we got. And that made a significant difference in the way our customers started pursuing us and the number of successful things that we did after that.
Right. So we as entrepreneurs face challenges.
And it's like, how do you take it?
It's like slam on the door, right?
Yeah. Other than like the sample, it happens.
Yeah. So in this journey also, right? When the team members come to you with problems or a lot of problems, do you always have the answer? Do you always have solutions for the problems your team come to you with?
They might expect, but I think you don't know the answer all the time.
Does the founder need to have a solution for everything?
At least we do this mistake. At least I do this mistake. Sometimes like you think like, oh man, whenever someone is asking a question, you need to somehow have an answer and say it. Right? Somehow come up with manufactured answers for even though you know nothing.
Right.
Behind the scenes you have no answer, but you just have to act as if you have an answer and say this. Right. We have done this mistake ourselves also. But I think it is, and my team members have also come back later and said like, it is better if you had said, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know is a better answer than saying some answer.
Yeah, just for the sake of
saying an answer. I think so. It's that honesty and humility among ourselves to admit that we don't know shit, right? Like,
Right.
we don't have, nobody thinks we have no idea. We are just manufacturing things on the way,
Right.
right?
Right.
And putting on a brave face around. That's the reality, right? I'm sure most of them we don't know the answer.
Right.
We're just acting as if we know the answer and putting a brave face in front of all our employees to because they need their brave face.
Right.
So that's what we're doing.
Right.
But sometimes it's okay to completely admit, shit, I don't know.
Right. Right.
I don't know the answer. Hopefully we'll figure it out.
Right.
But
Right. And you are more of a technical tech guy, but you had to learn business also because you're building the company.
Okay.
So was there a lot of problem to understand investments? I think Slang Labs is also funded, right? You also have investors on you. So you had to know how cap table works. Did you have to know how valuations work? Did you have to know the accounting compliances every month, GST, etc., etc.? How was that?
some part of it you have to know. Some part of it you have to trust the other person. We have to know we are an outsourced financial agency to take care of it.
Right.
And I have a complete trust on that person.
Right.
Okay, that guy will take care of it. I will learn at a superficial level what is required for me to understand where it's going, but I don't know the full nuance of the, for example, the GST model. I don't know.
Right.
I'm trusting the other person to run that show.
Right.
So, cap table, I'm the guy who asks questions. I have to know, sort of understand some level what am I doing. But other things that we have to rely on something. But from a business perspective, yes, you're right. Like the sense, like you have to learn something that you need to have that affinity to now learn that okay, if you just want to be a tech coder sort of a thing, business is not necessary for you. You also have to know have interest for things like that.
So if you were not, if you would have not done Slang Labs, what else would you have done? What are your other interests?
So when we were in Facebook, I think this is when we were in Facebook and we were discussing what to do next. Right. So me and my co-founder, we were evaluating various ideas. One of them was the agri-tech.
Okay.
In the field of electricity, climate, not climate, but optimizing power things to be able to provide stats.
Okay.
For industries to be able to know where the sort of like the little life for industry in some sense. Right? Now this is for an app guy to understand what is the power and everything. Now for an industry level, there are hundreds of machines that are running. Now do you know which machine is faulty, which machine is not working? What is the power consumption of those machines?
Right.
We were evaluating some crack.
I used to always think like WhatsApp as a product, right? It was such a simple and easy product, right? I was thinking, shit, man, why didn't I get this idea, right? And today we know how big WhatsApp is become, right? So you are a tech guy, and why do you think we sometimes don't get such great ideas, or I don't know? During WhatsApp, after WhatsApp, I think everything else came like Viber or a lot of chat platforms like that. But why couldn't say we get an idea of WhatsApp? Why do you think that happens?
Because ideas are nothing. Ideas are honestly not the main thing.
Okay.
It's the execution of the idea, and ideas will keep changing, evolving.
Right.
Like it's like look at you, look at me. Like, so you started with the assumption, okay, I'm going to make an app economy around rice trade.
Right.
But then that you're without building that, you're being able to build such a big successful company, right? It has evolved.
Right.
It's not about the idea of an app doing it is not that. But the point of something around that, I want to be able to be a bridge between the traders and the retailers somewhere and solve that some problem.
Right.
Mechanism might change, right? But that's the whole stuff. Similarly, like ideas in some sense are just ideas. It's the execution. How do you do it? How do you believe in your own idea, vision, and then do it? That's what matters. Right. Like we would keep saying, like a lot of times when people ask like when should I share this? I have an idea. Should I share it with people?
Right.
Saying like if your idea is so fragile that by sharing an idea, you're worried about someone stealing your idea.
Right.
Then your idea is better. It's not worth doing. If it's so trivial that just talking about it, someone can do a better job than you.
Correct.
And probably that the idea had no merit.
Correct.
You had no right to doing it. That's why do it better. So it's about execution. For example, WhatsApp.
Correct.
It is not true to say like nobody existed before WhatsApp.
Correct.
WhatsApp guys existed before WhatsApp.
Right.
Like Yahoo Messenger.
Correct.
Yahoo Messenger was one of the earlier cases we did.
Correct.
Like, there was an XMPP protocol. There's so many apps built around the XMPP. There was an open protocol. All of that happened before WhatsApp.
Like for example, Skype.
Yeah, so many
Skype could have come on phone.
So all of them happened. What WhatsApp did was like have a vision and executed to brilliant. Right? They said, okay, everybody is focusing on the West world.
Right.
US as a market they are trying to, and I will not worry about US. I will worry about the rest of the world.
Right.
Now the rest of the world, and the way rest of the world doesn't operate with user and West will operate between the username password sort of a model.
Right.
That is okay for the people who are evolved from a desktop era to come and do. You can use it.
Right.
WhatsApp said, I'm going to focus on the non-US market.
Right.
And the non-US market doesn't have desktops.
Right.
Mobile phone is the only thing.
Right.
I can't ask them to create a username.
Right.
Using my phone name
Right.
as my identifier, I'm going to be building a system.
Right.
That is the core idea.
Right.
They were able to now execute that brilliantly. And the way they executed it brilliantly also, they said, look, I am going to be laser focused on doing one thing and one thing only.
Right.
Messaging.
Right.
Instant messaging to its truest thing.
Right.
You want to send a message, WhatsApp is your best way, most reliable way to send a message which will reach the other person with a faster channel. If you all typically can go to the right, when you open your phone, when you boot up your phone, the first thing you start in your notification typically is WhatsApp.
Right.
Other things start to come if you have messenger and everything, will all come little later.
Yes.
It's not like they have any priority system for it. It's just that they work so really fast.
Right.
That small thing about sending a message,
Right.
they have optimized it so well
Right.
that you trust that system. When I send a message, it will definitely go. That's the thing they have done. That is one thing. The CEO was so vehemently focused on just doing that one thing. Right? I remember like when we were part of GSM again.
Okay.
We went for a trip. We had that trip to go meet different CEOs.
Okay.
So this is all 2010, 11 or sometime. When WhatsApp was just becoming popular, not very important, but just becoming popular. 100 million people got it using it at that point.
Right.
So we met Evernote. Evernote that notes taking app.
Right,
We met
right.
that CEO,
Right.
Silicon Valley.
Right.
Then we also met the WhatsApp CEO.
Okay. You have met WhatsApp CEO.
We have met
Wow.
WhatsApp. No, but I think this is not as a person. It was like a group.
Right.
Group meeting.
Right. Right.
So in that meeting,
Right.
so then we were all asking him questions. The Evernote guy was like any other CEO. We as a user will keep giving ideas. Hey man, why don't do this, do that, do this, do that. No, yeah, correct. Nice idea. We'll take it, do it, sort of thing.
Right.
Right? Very classic American sort of a model and take it very free document.
Right.
Go to the WhatsApp CEO meeting.
Right.
We are all WhatsApp customers.
Okay.
We knew. Sir, why don't you do this feature?
Okay.
Sorry. Oh no, why don't you do this feature? No,
Okay.
like, yeah, that clarity
clear.
Very clear about no. I am not going to clutter my app with hundreds of pages.
Right.
I am going to do this only. Anything that will make my speed go down, I am not going to touch a bit.
Oh.
Right? And then when we did, when we became part of Facebook, we were doing evaluation of the WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger evaluation.
Right.
In Messenger, if I type hello,
Right.
we were measuring the payload of the network bytes that is going.
Right.
4,000 bytes
Okay.
of data was being constructed to send hello, a 5-letter
Right.
character word.
Right.
To send it at a low level,
Right.
it is creating some package of around 4,000 bytes.
Right.
4,000 bytes and sending.
Right.
WhatsApp, 400 bytes. Same hello message. To send the same message, what WhatsApp creates underneath is just 400 bytes.
Okay.
Right? It's that order of magnitude difference between the things. Same experience.
Right. Right.
That is why it is fast.
Okay. Right. So my question is now, a company like Nokia, right, should have been the first company to do smartphones. Companies like say Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes should have been the first EV into the EV space and not Tesla. So why do these humongous companies fail to reinvent, innovate, and some Nokia kind of companies just die off? Why do you think this kind of things happen?
So, a whole book has built in on the subject. Innovator's Dilemma.
Innovators
It's called
dilemma.
Innovator's Dilemma.
Okay.
It's a bang on thing.
Okay.
When you are the leader of something, you
Right.
start to believing your own Kool-Aid so much.
Right.
You start to now miss out on the trends that are happening outside.
Right. Right.
Because the trends are not, you're not kidding. The trends is somewhere, some corner of the mind, somebody is talking about, like for example, Microsoft completely missed the internet bandwagon.
Right.
Later on, they caught up and they did, but initially when internet was catching on,
Right.
they thought desktop was the way people
Correct.
operate. They would not operate in this connected world. They had some fad, they were not too focused. That's when Netscape came in, and then, but they quickly corrected, but they were
Correct.
able to catch up.
Correct.
So similarly, this is the classic thing that when you are the leader,
Right.
you tend to not, in innovation, you think it in a very structured way. Okay, I have set a vision, this is how the world is going to be.
Mm.
But the world doesn't happen the way you think.
Correct.
There are these side innovations that other things are happening.
Correct.
And you tend to know, and if they're counter to your vision,
Right.
you tend to ignore, thinking they are fine.
Right. Right.
And but to be honest, also there are hundreds of things that will happen. Most of them they will be right only.
Right.
Most of them those side things would have been negative case only. It's better off to be focused on them. But because of that same tunnel vision,
Right.
they tend to miss out on those positive other things that are happening until it becomes too late.
Right.
They are so entrenched in it. And the reason that happens again, it's like people. Finally, what creates a company is a people.
Right.
It's not just about the IP that you have or the patent that you have. It's about the amount people are able to know anyway.
Right.
If you have lost that beyond a point, if this has grown to a critical mass,
Right.
then the best people tend to go there.
Right.
The new set of ideas and everybody go to that. And then that, once people go there,
Right.
even employees and everybody goes there,
Right.
then your ability to now outpay it starts to drastically drop.
Right. Right. So do you advise entrepreneurs and even team members to visit conferences, exhibitions? Because I just want to share my experience recently. I just attended a D2C conference and exhibition, and I had no expectation from it. And I looked down upon it even before I went there. I was like, "Kya hi dekhunga main idhar? What will be here? Nothing. Just let me see." But when I went there, I was so impressed. Meaning there were so many people trying to do so many things.
Correct.
There are people who are saying that we cover 29,000 pin codes. Then there were tech companies who said we will do logistics, fleet management, delivery, cash on delivery, cash collection options. Then people who are giving a whole tech stack for it. And there were so many things. So I think if we miss the pulse of what's happening outside, and I think it becomes very, we lose out on a lot of things.
If your ears are not on the ground, like as a small company, you can still have that notion. Because there are things, they become bigger and bigger.
Right.
Your ability to now know all the signals become like the CEO of Nokia is not going to come to a conference, for example, to learn about what is there.
Right.
He's going to rely on his other next level people to be able to give him all the right data.
Right.
And then if the culture of the person is not to be listening to this and then not changing, it again become very other. The incentive for them to give that feedback also become very vague, and the person unable to perceive what happens. It's a classic thing that happens with that once you become the leader of a particular domain.
Right.
For it to be able to now be open to new ideas. Very few companies have reinvented themselves.
Correct.
Again, Facebook, an example. Like for example, Facebook, Sun. All of you have heard of the company Sun Microsystems. They were the pioneer in building servers. Right. They were the backbone, like Cisco and Sun were the backbones for internet growth. Right. They are now on it. They have been acquired by Oracle. Something like they are no longer. They were like that building is what Facebook acquired, bought, and that has become the Facebook headquarters. Now in that road, in the Popular Point Junction, where in Menlo Park, where Sun building, there's a big board outside which is a welcome Sun Microsystems board. When Facebook acquired them, now instead of removing the Sun board and replacing them with their board, what it is, it is covered that Sun board with the Facebook logo, like a sheet. Okay. Right? And what Mark says consciously, it was like, one day we'll become like Sun. Okay. There's no guarantee that we will not be like Sun.
Yes.
Right? So it's better that we don't forget that we cannot, just because we are the leader today, doesn't mean somebody will not come and kill you.
Correct. Correct.
You have to be constantly looking out for what is the next thing that's going to come and kill you.
Correct. Correct.
You can't be conscious of it, then you're going to die.
Very true.
So that these are all symbolic gestures, but symbolically, like, at least it's verbal thing you're saying. But to be conscious of that, right? Constantly believe that innovation is not going to come from you, innovation is going to come from anybody. Right. And you have to be willing and open to keep looking at it. The modern companies are becoming better and better at it. Like, they're all anyway, IBM is one such example of being relevant for hundreds of years. Correct. They're still being, well, today they are less relevant, but at least for a long time they have remained relevant because of that fact. They are constantly able to reinvent and rediscover them.
So I am done with my questions, Kumar. If anybody has a question that you might want to ask Kumar, you might feel free to do so. And you have a hard stop that
I have meeting at 5:15.
Okay, this is
close down.
Yeah. So I think one or two questions if anybody has. So
you put them at the put wrong answers for short questions.
So any tech question or a product question. So it's been great to learn, Kumar. I've been watching you, as I said, from the longest time now, and we do this once a month. And
good.
And you came to my mind when we had to select somebody for this month, and some of the stories I knew in the past, but you added a lot of details into this story.
Thank you.
Right? So we have a small token and a hamper that we want to give you for taking your valuable time and coming to us. So this is the one which is here.